As many wise philosophers and unlicensed life coaches say alike, sometimes to move forwards, you have to look back. And this past week has felt a bit like that to me. We've had Panic at the Disco split up after Brendan Urie clearly had a long conversation with Brendan Urie in the mirror, only to then unanimously decide by one single vote, declared by himself and then confirmed by himself, ultimately leading to Brendan Urie splitting up with Brendan Urie. And Panic at the Disco were no more. We also had the return of the mid-2000s emo pop punk juggernaut Fall Out Boy, with their new singles Heartbreak Feels So Good and Love From The Other Side. But over the years, Fall Out Boy's sound has drastically changed from their Under the Cork Tree days, causing many fans to no longer be interested. Thus, the question is begged, are Fall Out Boy getting worse? Well, let's get on with it then. Now, to throw it back a bit, during the emo pandemic of side-swept fringes in the mid-2000s, a movement which I was happily a part of, Fall Out Boy reigned supreme as one of the biggest bands at the time, and admittingly, they were probably my favourite band for a solid few years. Please don't tell Arctic Monkeys that I endeavoured in such an affair. But alas, at the time, Fall Out Boy could do no wrong, with Pete Wentz's fantastical lyrics that were great but made absolutely no sense, and Patrick Stump's absolutely soul-styled belting voice. But after their fourth album, Folie à Deux, Fall Out Boy took a hiatus for a couple of years, only to return with their leading single, My Songs Know What You Did in the Dark, and their following album, Save Rock and Roll. Now, Save Rock and Roll was different to their original four releases. There was more an emphasis on bigger choruses, less guitars, but still all cut clean with an undertone of big songs based in the rock genre. And although it was different, I absolutely loved this album, and thankfully the hype of their return lived up to my personal expectations. But as always, when most bands change their sound, a lot of fans really weren't keen on what happened to the band due to the inclusion of more pop-styled elements on the album. And, well, that pop stylization only got stronger in their subsequent releases. The album after Save Rock and Roll, American Beauty, American Psycho, was an alright album overall, I'd say, but it felt Fall Out Boy had started to head towards a formulaic song rotation, featuring a build-up of verses which are quite quiet and delicate in their nature, maybe painting a bit of a story.
Then absolutely loud, banging, echoing choirs, choruses with, oh my god, what is happening? Why is it so noisy all of a sudden?
And then back to the exit verse, and, we're back onto that more quieter, gentler.
Then straight back in, you boys getting quiet, oh, we're back into the chorus buster.
And, well, that formula basically became the whole of the album Mania in 2018. It saddens me to say, but I genuinely ended up skipping through most of the album at the time. I then went to revisit it a few months ago and forced myself to listen to it all, but to put it simply, it just wasn't a good album. Now, I'm not saying that their original four albums didn't feature a formulaic style at times, but if you're following a formula that makes you pump out songs that are 9s and 10s constantly, I think you're probably fine. The issue comes when you're producing songs that aren't connecting with your audience quite as much and aren't really, aren't good. I still think Fall Out Boy have so many great songs from their entire catalogue, regardless of their previous two albums, that it's hard not to come back to them. And as a result, Fall Out Boy have built up such a large and dedicated audience, and I'm part of that audience, I'd say. Even though I've not been keener on their recent stuff, I can't help but come back and listen to what they're producing, as the band holds so many memories for me. So, have Fall Out Boy gotten worse? Well, maybe worse is too harsh a word. I'd probably say their new stuff has become predictable and personally not that enjoyable. And this is coming from someone who enjoyed the stylistic change-up of Save Rock and Roll, and who had Fall Out Boy as their favourite band for a number of years. So overall, as a result, I've always felt a bit sad about where the band ended up after such an absolute peak in the 2000s and early 2010s. But would you believe my absolute shock horror when their new singles came onto shuffle? Personally for me, Love From The Other Side and Heartbreak Feels So Good are absolute bangers. Love From The Other Side is a really great song, and I genuinely felt a bit emotional listening to this song, not due to the content of the song, but because I felt like one of my old favourite bands were back and producing good music again. And I would highly recommend listening to this song if you're a bit cautious about jumping back into Fall Out Boy. I feel Heartbreak Feels So Good suffers a tad from the overloud chorus, but the rest of the song feels relatively on the same tempo in the build-up towards the chorus, so it doesn't completely destroy my ears. Both songs, but especially Love From The Other Side, feel like they have aspects of their new style change which they'd realistically overdone in Mania, but have combined it with that throwback to their original style in the 2000s without it feeling like a complete gimmick or feeling tacky. Which, to be honest, I'm pretty impressed by, as a band trying to sound like they did 15 years ago or so doesn't always work out so well. So currently, Fall Out Boy are back and on an upwards trajectory to me, and these songs came as a surprise and a most welcome return. And I honestly can't wait to see what they're bringing out in the future. So I guess even if Fall Out Boy had gotten worse, they're certainly getting better now. And on that note, I think I'll say ta-ra for now, and I'll see you later.